of knowledge and research into potential goods and services for the Filipino people towards sustainability and resiliency. I would like to thank all those who worked persistently to make this session of the Kapehan successful. Our panel of newly awarded NAST Awardees, the new Academicians, corresponding members, and our 2023 OIS Awardees for participating and contributing to the advancement of science and technology in the country. DOST, STII, and PIA for their usual support to the Academy, and our media friends for finding time in your schedule to attend this important activity and in support of the awardees and the various science communication endeavors of NAST Philippines. I wish for a fruitful exchange of ideas from our media and invited guests. Once again, welcome and a pleasant.
So,
slides more on the intersection of artificial intelligence and biosystems. And right now, I'm mainly working on evolutionary computing and other biocomputing techniques in improving quality of life of farmers particularly.
Hello, good morning everyone. I'm Albert Renos-Rosana. I'm the Science and Technology Fellow of DOST, detailed at the Tuklas Lunas, or the Drug Discovery and Development Program. I'm also an adjunct professor at UP Los Baños, as well as an affiliate researcher at IPDI, working on the Vaccine and Virology Institute of the Philippines, where we look at vector-borne viruses like dengue, chikungunya, Zika, and the likes. I specialize in microbiology in my bachelor's degree from UP Los Baños, and then I move on to marine microbiology in Canada, and eventually medicinal chemistry for my Ph.D. And I'm glad to be back here in the Philippines after being away for 20 years. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Moises Nilvisareño. I am the Dean of the College of Management and Economics at Visayas State University based in Baybay City, Leyte. My background, I took Ph.D. in Development Economics from Germany. So my focus evolves on looking at household emissions, now transitioning to climate issues, environmental issues. Recent activities focusing with our small-scale farmers. And current projects under DOST that we are working is on assessing the impact of all the projects, selected projects that are being implemented to ask whether we are creating impacts with those development projects. Good morning, Francis.
magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat. Ako si Dran Trev Earl Corazon Monico, which is quite a mouthful, but I'm called many names. So my parents call me Dran. My colleagues in the TIP call me Red. My teachers in UP call me Earl, and my son and daughter call me Daddy. Anyway, ako po yung recipient ng 2023 NAST Environmental Science Award. My background po, I have a Ph.D. in physics from UP Diliman. I also had a postdoc sa Munich, Germany for 2 years. I have been involved in an interdisciplinary research, so kaya physics ako, pero I had some study on environmental science. So kaya yun po yung naging impact ng interdisciplinary collaboration ko po. So I'll be looking forward to your questions. Salamat po.
Yeah, good morning po. My name is Jason Cosmin. I'm an associate professor at the National Institute of Physics. So background is I have a PhD in physics, and I specialize on quantum physics and condensed matter physics. So for those of you who are familiar with the term condensed matter, it's essentially the study of different phases of matter. So like the ones that we have learned from elementary, solid, liquid, gas, right? And as condensed matter physicists, we are interested in discovering more of those, understanding different phases of matter and how they transform from one phase to another. So yeah, before coming back to the Philippines, I did my PhD in New Zealand, and then I spent a little bit of time as a postdoctoral researcher at Germany. And yeah, so now I'm happy to be back. So so yeah, happy to be here. It's a pleasure, and I look forward to receiving questions later. Thank you.
Sorry for the delay. My name is Corazon de Ungria. I work at the DNA Analysis Laboratory, Natural Sciences Research Institute.
Sila po muna, no? So, sa ating mga newly awarded academicians, what do you think are your strong points that led you to your success and getting the prestigious distinction as an academician of the Academy?
Yung tunay na pagmamahal that you will devote time, effort, money, a lot of things you will forgo in order to push science forward in the Philippines. Second is the resilience. Kasi ang pagtatrabaho po bilang researcher sa Pilipinas, hindi madali. So resilience amidst challenges in all different things, from field work, from trying to get funds, trying to cope with the challenges of trying to do your work in the Philippines. Pangatlo po is courageous leadership. At some point, pag nag-academician na, alam ng mga tao dito, to a certain extent, we've been heads of certain departments, of certain laboratories, and it takes courage to be a leader in the Philippines kasi hindi rin siya madali. So there are things that we have to make choices where those choices are not easy. At kailangan mo i-forgo ang certain things in order to push what is right forward. Good for the participants, good for the nation, even if it is difficult. So that takes courage to do so. And lastly, is also passion for service. Ginagawa po natin ito, I'm sure the others would also say this, na hindi naman po para sa promotion lang namin or so that we could be conferred academicians in our older age. Pero po talaga, merong part of our career is to be able to serve the country in the way that we see the country needs to be served. And so I think those are the main characteristics that we have. Love for science, resilience to challenges, courageous leadership, and passion for service.
Mine is about hungry to seek new knowledge and the excitement to learn new technologies. And of course, the perseverance, hard work, and with luck, especially in getting scholarships from our government. I'm very lucky that all my background, from elementary, high school, college, it's all free, and graduate, it's all free because of our government. So I'm very proud to be a part of the pool of the scholars that our government sent abroad and coming back here to pay back this. And also, right now, we are the strong points that I've got is the grants from our government. All my research is supported by the government. Down from robotics, the application of robotics in transportation, in agriculture, in fisheries, and of course in manufacturing. These are granted to me by the UST. So I owe a lot from the DOST. So that's it. My strength is from the support of the government. Thank you.
I'd like to think that it was important for me to have role models. And I was fortunate that even was doing my undergraduate, I had role models and that were actually people who were interested in marine science. And at the time that nobody was a chemical oceanographer or marine chemist in this country. That was what happened. I was at the University of San Carlos. I was doing my thesis looking at cirrus in octocorals or gorgonians. And I had some mentor, Peace Corps volunteer, who was passionate about natural products from the sea. And at the same time, at San Carlos, we had a marine science office, and they had German scientists from Kiel who were also engaging us to a large extent. So those were my early years, and then I joined the Marine Sciences Center then at UP. And again, a role model was Ed Gomez, who knew exactly what he wanted to do for marine science in this country. And so that was there. And then when I had a chance to do my Ph.D., and this was my dream, to actually do marine chemistry with leaders in the field, Chester and Riley, and the known books of Introduction to Marine Chemistry and Chemical Oceanography at the University of Liverpool. Again, I had a chance to interact with important role models. So they knew what they wanted to do, and I felt that that was what I could also do for the country. And I might add that it was also a very difficult challenge, because if you're all alone in your field and you come back to the Philippines, you don't have people to talk with. And I think that's a challenge for the scientists. So it was important to interact, and fortunately, the age of the internet came, so there was greater opportunity to interact with people abroad. And that was also very crucial and important. And for marine scientists, it's most important, provide and bring out, seek linkages, not just with the Filipino scientists, but with the scientists abroad. Thank you.
My background's a bit interesting in a way that, originally actually wanted to be an economist because I'm closer to my father who was an economist. My mother's a biologist, but it was in 1978, there was a cover of Time magazine where it was the boom in genetic engineering. It was the head of Herbert Boyer with his DNA exploding. So this was the start of gene splicing or the genetic engineering. I said I wanted to do that. So that's when I shifted a bit to science. And it became an interest to me is the combination of science and business. And then that's why I decided to pursue a PhD. I shifted to biology then. I did then my undergraduate in biology. And the first book actually I read, interestingly, was the DNA story written by Watson, how the DNA helix was discovered. And I highly recommend those for those early in biology. And it's still a good read, how science worked, and that excited me, how science essentially turned out. So that's how I started my path. At that time, there was no internet, so you only had typewriter. So I actually started writing people, and this was still undergrad. It was kind of plotting up. And as Hill was saying here, interestingly, those professors who and eventually I did a postdoc with, replied to me, and I was still an undergraduate then. There was Michael Rossman doing crystallography. But of course, there was no crystallography in the Philippines, although there are known crystallographers, Filipino crystallographers, but at that time I didn't know. So write that, but then in between they worked out the PhD and then worked out together that I ended up working with Michael Rossman. So that was the academic phase of the career, but then I realized that my interest really was combining biology and the business side. So after I did my postdoc, that's when I went there and joined a startup company in Germany called Morphosis, which is now a big company. So now ever since, what I've been saying is I've been on the dark side or on the business side, combining business and biotech, and that's how I mapped, in a way, my career. And as what Hill was saying, as well as Cora was saying, is that I think it's important is to have that passion. It might be unique, you might be the only one, but I think you continue doing that. So that's what I've been doing for the past, and having good mentors along the way. So hopefully in the Philippines, and even though I've been in industry, I've been working also with academics, so that it is possible to combine the business side as well as academics. So I'm trying to publish as well. So even though you're a small company, even in Europe, when I was in Europe and Australia, and still in the Philippines, even though I've been away for more than almost 40 years, I have collaborated actively with Philippine scientists, and we tried to do things together. And I presume that's why I got nominated as well. So it was a bit of a surprise, but very definitely an honor to be part of the Academy.
Yes, po. When I started way back in 1999, one thing that really pushed us forward is to be a mentor and an example for women, females wanting to do research. I'm in forensic DNA technology, so in 1999, when I came back from overseas, very difficult to start forensic DNA in the Philippines. One, because most of the lawyers were male, most of the judges were male, most of the police that we were talking to were male. So it's a female trying to push a technology forward, science forward, in a male-dominated society. So in a male-dominated profession. So that was very tough. And here I was counting, there are 11 of us, and there are only 2 females. There are 4 academicians and only 1 female. So really, although there are a lot more female students doing STEM, and I have in my team at the DNA Analysis Lab, majority of our researchers are female. Pero we need to continue mentoring them in order for them to reach the levels that they would like to. And of course, we commend the female mentors we've had through the years. Professor Luli Cruz, Professor Rod Asanza, Professor Gisela Concepcion, Ma'am Ina Halos, who founded the DNA Analysis Laboratory, Ma'am Cornelia Cao. So these are females who have mentored younger females and showed us that there is a path in science for female researchers. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our academicians. You're truly po inspiring to us, young studies. Alright, let's now proceed to our OIS awardees. May I direct these questions to Dr. Agustin, Dr. Aruta, and Dr. Concepcion. Alright? So yung question naman po natin is, being an OIS means to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. So this award is really very meaningful to me. It validates the hard work, the dedication and passion that I put in my research as an early career agricultural scientist. It also serves as a humble reminder and at the same time an encouragement for me to continuously pursue excellence in doing research here in Philippines despite limitations and challenges as mentioned a while ago. And this award is also a celebration for my mentors and colleagues as well as my families because they have really supported and have shown me a lot of good researches in order for me to follow. So as Ma'am Ungria mentioned a while ago, modeling mentorship is really very important po. So I'm very thankful to our mentors and our support group who have been supporting us in our research.
Thank you. I totally agree with many things that Dr. Agustin mentioned. And number one is, this is a reminder. For me, it's a personal reminder of how far I've gone. From being a child from a very less privileged background to being an academic. I can only imagine all the challenges and hard work you need to put in order to be a scientist. And hopefully this award will serve as a reminder as well for many young Filipinos who are currently struggling in their academics while dealing with all the financial challenges. That there's always hope and there are always opportunities that we can find and opportunities that we can create for ourselves. And as a person trying to pioneer a field which is environmental psychology, I hope this award creates as well opportunities for me to influence other people in my field, psychology, and this is also an interdisciplinary field, so hopefully people in neighboring fields will be inspired to join me in my pioneering work on environmental psychology in the Philippines. I really believe that Filipinos in the field of environment, climate change, we can be a leader in this field because we have first lived experience of environmental problems, climate change. We have if we only put a little bit more expertise paired with this rich experience, we can really be part of the global discourse and influence directions. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, this OIS award does not only refers to a lifetime achievement or distinction. So rather, it's also a way of putting myself as a role model for other young and food systems. And likewise, I believe that this award is an assurance for everyone that there are good outcomes from science experiments, scientific experiments that are should be intended for the benefits of the society.
That would open after winning this award. Okay.
I guess I'll answer that one. Sa tingin ko, yung mga bumalik na mga scientifico kagaya ko, itong award na to ay magbubukas ng napakaraming pinto. Unang-una may mga pondo na susuportahan yung pagsisimula ng isang laboratorio, especially kung sa kagaya ko na matagal na nawala. Ito ding award na to, I think, unti-unting lumalawak yung network. Makikita mo yung mga dati mong mentors, mga dati mong estudyante, and that's, I think, an avenue para mag-collaborate kayo.
Dr. Smith.
It will open more opportunities for linkages and collaboration and further strengthen the things that we do, knowing that we've been given this recognition as an outstanding young scientist. So it's a further motivation for us. So it's opening more inner drive for us to do and develop further our crafts so that we can be a better service to the community, to the Filipinos, improving the general welfare, contributing, addressing some societal problems. So that's for my inner drive. And for the outside factor, so they would recognize that the things that I am doing means something. And I think that can gravitate some funding. It's one of our fuel to do something more concrete on the ground. So I think those are just some of the ways where this award can mean something on the ground.
Totally agree, Dr. Leodevico. Next, in our NAST Talent Search Awardee, Dr. Cosmin. How can you further contribute to the improvement of your respective field and the society in general? Very beauty pageant question.
Yeah, okay, o nga, no. So actually, una yung field ko talaga physics. But I'm working on studies with biologists, marine scientists, kasi exciting siya dahil it's beyond what I was trained for when I was in school. Being a recipient of this award, I think for me, affirmation siya na merong impact yung collaboration na yun. So even though my field is, well, no offense to Jason here, para kasi kaming physics. Ang physics kasi is medyo malalim yung as in sobrang layo na hindi mo siya mahugot. Pero we can connect physics and our training, yung background namin sa, let's say, mathematics, yung frame of mind namin to look at things deeper. Kaya siyang i-connect with even the most important problems in our society today, one of which, and I think nabanggit kanina, climate change. So yun actually din yung part kung saan yung study which I won this award for is connected. No? It's about mangroves kasi, and we, based sa pag-aaral namin, we understood that mangroves are very good absorbers of carbon in the atmosphere. Ano ba yung carbon na yun? Yun actually yung sobra na idudulot kapag gumagamit tayo ng sasakyan. Itong energy na meron dito sa building na to right now is being produced because there's a lot of carbon being burned. And so, yun, I think in terms of how it will impact society, I believe if we can inspire more young people, especially mga STEM students, to look beyond their fields, whether you are a chemist, you're a biologist, a mathematician, a physicist, an engineer, but if you can work together on a common problem that really strikes us all as one human species in this planet, di ba? I think yun, magkakaroon ng ganun kalaking impact. So yun. more collaborations will be very important.
I totally agree also. Dr. Cosmo.
Thanks for the question. So, Dr. Leodevico mentioned, I'm a theoretical physicist, also I introduce myself as such. And maybe just to give a background, so I specifically won this award for this paper that we published in this highly prestigious journal Science almost like a year ago. And it was in collaboration with my German colleagues. And what we did in that pioneering study was that we were the first ones to actually observe what is this new phase of matter called a continuous time crystal. So the way to think about it is it's essentially like the crystal that we have, like solids, that we are familiar with, but instead of having pattern in space, we have spontaneous pattern in time. And so, yeah, it's repeating itself in time, so that's why it's a time crystal. It sounds very sci-fi-ish, but it's real, and we have observed it in the lab. And one of the questions that I typically get, especially coming from the basic science or basic research is what good is this thing for, right? I'm sure that some of us here have faced similar questions before, especially coming from theoretical physics, where a lot of the stuff that we're doing is highly mathematical. It's really grounded on very fundamental things, right? And to basically more or less answer a little bit the question that was raised, I'm a strong believer that science is inherently useful, and it's possible that we cannot find an immediate application of a new discovery, but I'm pretty sure somewhere down the line, a clever person, or a clever group will be able to find a use for things that have been discovered in the past. Yeah, no worries. Right. So that's the thing, right? So, like a good example is quantum physics. This is something that I'm an expert of. And when people start doing quantum physics, they're only interested in the mathematical beauty and really understanding how nature works. But nowadays, we have a lot of applications of quantum physics, right? So we cannot have computers, like the semiconductor chips, those operate under quantum physics, and we're able to progress, we're able to develop them even further because of our understanding of quantum physics and condensed matter, right? So essentially, one part of the answer would be to just continue pursuing what interests us in the field, because genuinely they are going to be useful one way or another. And second, some of my colleagues, esteemed colleagues here mentioned already, we are also mentors ourselves, and we are mentoring the next generation of future leaders or future scientists, right? So for me, those are the two things that I think I would like to point out. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cosme, and to all of our awardees, thank you once again for answering my beauty pageant questions. But now let's move on with the questions coming from our friends from the press and other media partners. So the questions are already connected.
When I came back in early 90s, promoting robotics and artificial intelligence is so difficult for the community. For example, because at that time it's a science fiction. They portray robotics just like similar to the movies. So it's really hard. So the strategies I made is that I made educational and entertaining robots to attract students on studying robots and the community itself. So in that case, I'm lucky because I have this Federation of International Robot Soccer Association. I am one of the executives for that. Worldwide, we have an international competitions on robotics. So from high school, elementary level, we teach on making robots for fun, for competitions. And that enlightens the minds of young students to study robotics. And the challenge there is, it is only for entertainment. What's the application for industry? How does it helps the community? So I choose that platform because I can introduce many technologies like soccer football. In that platform, you can portray that robots works like humans because they are playing. and in that platform, you can say communications are very important. At that point, wireless communications of those robots is very important for industry. And also, I show to them that machine visions is important because recognizing those teammates, recognizing the opponents are very challenging task, wherein you can apply that one directly to manufacturing because if you want the quality of the products, you can use machine vision for that. Note this is in early 90s or later part in 2000. So at that point, they were able to accept the importance of robotics and artificial intelligence. So the challenge there is make a platform to show to them that this technology, this science has an impact to the community. Thank you.
If I may add siguro sa sinabi ni Sir Dadios. So we already have a platform in place for which we can actually effectively communicate sana yung science, whatever fields of science will be. So I think we also have a lot of people naman who are very creative in that regard, meaning to say you have a very technical idea, concept from science, tapos may communicate siya in a more visual, audio manner na mas engaging. I think that's very important. Since we are in the business of probably inspiring the next generation, so I think it's the way we also educate them. Now, science kasi has traditionally been taught, at least for all of us here siguro, in a chop and talk lecture way. And I guess most of us have also been teachers, di ba? Ganun din tayo, di ba? Tinuturo natin yung mga science concepts na yun. I think now is also an opportune time na simulan natin yung hands-on science. Because, you know, science is a really tentative endeavor. Meaning to say, what we know now may not be exactly fact like 10 years from now kasi may bago na naman, di ba? Although, of course, kung math, di ba? 1 plus 1 always 2. Pero ibig sabihin, we might be able to take that opportunity to also educate them in a different, probably more hands-on, experiential way. And I guess that will inspire a lot. Kasi now, nakikita nila, a quantum computer is possible because of the mathematical foundations from which it was laid. Or maybe chemistry in the oceans will be very exciting kasi para siyang detective work. Di ba yung gano'n na atake? I think science communication will do a lot in terms of translation of what we endeavor to understand into something more authentic, reachable, lalo na sa mga bata.
Maybe I'll just add, maybe following through. Science realities, they make it also their mission to communicate better the science that they have. But it's not something that you also just learn on the fly. You have to actually study and learn and also be mentored to be good communicators. So I feel that maybe we, or at least some of us, need to perhaps go into that mode. Yes, we have the science communicators. In fact, you can go and get a degree in science communication and that sort of thing. But I could argue that perhaps the best and most effective communicators of science could also be the scientists themselves. We just need to be able to communicate them. Second, I think to reach the audience, I think we should be also good storytellers. And I think that's how we can reach, especially the young people. Third, maybe we can use metaphors more. So, for instance, I'm thinking about metaphors of the ocean, parang sabaw, o nagluluto ka. For chemical oceanography, it's the chemistry of the ocean. It's like, I can think about that soup that contains all of these ingredients and that you have to add in certain measures and all of that. And, understanding what the processes are as the soup is getting cooked and all that. So, and finally, since I now have grandchildren, believe it or not, yes, I do. I'm retired. It has to be experiential, and I go with that. And we've done this in our classrooms. We can talk to our students in our classes. I taught MS1, MS100. But I think the greatest experiences of my students were the times that I brought them out to the field. 2 days out at sea or the beach or the coast. Those are the memories that they will keep when they're my age. And they will have forgotten all of the information that I would have shared with them or they would have found out during the course. It's the experiences that really matter. And I think that's also the challenge for us. Thank you.
Yes, Dr.
And to actually counteract the disinformation. So malaking ask yan sa scientists ngayon. And following Professor Hill's statements, kailangan talaga ang ating vision of teaching is the four walls of a classroom. It goes beyond that. And I think ito yung importante. Ako being in forensic DNA technology. So we deal with crimes, we deal with paternity testing, we deal with kidnapped children, we deal with people in prison, we deal with children who have been abused by their own family, etc. So what do? We make sure that the researchers in the lab know the reason for why they are developing a method. Hindi lang test tubes ang nakikita, hindi lang Eppendorf tubes, but our goal is to show them, or at least to make them realize that each of those tubes is a face, is a person. It has relevance to the lives of the people around them, to whom they are testing. So yun yung una na eh. Kaya we try not to middle manage people. You give them a purpose, parang binigyan mo ng carrot yung course. Tapos bahala. And then one thing that I ask my team to do is to actually read the newspapers. How can you have socially relevant projects if you don't know what is happening around you? Katulad na lang the other day, merong na-rape sa loob ng UP Diliman. It's on Ilanan Street. That is our campus. So again, we're reaching out, paano natin matutulungan itong kasong ito? We've done other cases before, so how do we help? And those are things that are particularly relevant to individuals kasi ang mga bata, gusto nila, yung experiment sila, may pinatutunguhan. Pangalawa, and following through the statements earlier, when one communicates with a common language. Alam niyo, one of our work, besides forensic DNA technology, is going to the different communities. Our field work is going through the different communities all over the archipelago, indigenous communities. Iba-ibang salita. May Ilocano, may Bisaya, may Mangyan, may Bajau, etc. Different languages na hindi ko naiintindihan. Pero when you stay with the communities, you understand what their problems are. Even if you don't understand the words, you understand the sentiment. And that's what I call universal language. We all want the same thing. We want a better life. We want education for our children. We want better health. Kahit hindi nila sabihin yan sa salitang hindi ko na maintindihan ko, you understand because of the other ways of communication that these people have. And I think that's a challenge for us in order to have scientists like us get out of our ivory tower, go down of our ivory tower, and dialogue with the communities in some parts of our lives in order to understand what they need and to incorporate what they need in the projects that we ask funding from the government. So I think that's the way to be able to reach to the students and the researchers to put relevance in the work that we do.
Thank you very much for that very impactful answer, Dr. Ungria. We will...
one more? Hi, isipin na, from a social science perspective, ano nga ba ang gusto ng masa? Ano nga ba ang patok sa masa? So, importante na may interdisciplinary collaboration. For example, we can learn lessons from existing materials now na nakuha nila yung puso ng masa kahit ang tinuturo nila ay lumang-luma. For example, yung Maria Clara and Ibarra na GMA. Di ba? Kadalasan, pag tinuturo ang NOLI, ginagawa ito sa mga dula, sa mga pelikula, very conventional. No? Pero itong Maria Clara and Ibarra, pinasukan nila ng Gen Z flavor. You know? May isang character doon na gumagamit ng Gen Z language. Na ngayon, patok na patok ito sa masa. So paano natin mahanap a good mix of science and and public awareness, public interest. No, na-imagine ko nga, and this is going to sound crazy, yung usong-uso ngayon yung mga lato-lato. Paano natin may tuturo sa mga bata yung physics noon?
Lato.
Interested sila doon, how can we inject, scientific interest? So yun lang po, from a social science guy, engage on science communication to the masses. Thank you.
Thank you very much po. Our next media partner,
This
Mr.
is the applications of artificial intelligence and robotics, wherein you can simulate the environment in terms of the temperature, in terms of the water, in terms of the nutrients. We are doing that now. In fact, that's the Ph.D. of Roel. We're doing that as a showcase that artificial intelligence and robotics is a good application to have more food productions. Going back to how to entertain this one, how to convince people that this is really good for the community, good for the country. I remember I've been proposing this kind of technologies way back in early 2000, and in our proposal, every time we propose this one to the funding agency, they said, what will happen to our farmers when we are going to approve this if they don't have work anymore? That's the common mentality that we should eradicate. For example, I can cite now, we've been doing this no contact apprehension. I have a project with the Dadios, the Cat's All project, and we are able to show that we can detect violators of traffic. We can punish them. We can get the plate numbers of that. And what happened to no contact apprehension policy? It was stopped. So that's the irony. There is a conflict with policymakers, the scientists. We want the community to be educated on traffic. We want the community to, the drivers to be disciplined, but afraid of implications. This is really done for the benefit of the community, for humanity. That's very important.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dadios. How about Dr. Rosana, being balik scientist and also to Agustin?
Okay, so let me anchor my answer on how I can contribute on food production as a returning scientist or as a balik scientist. So my graduate study, during my graduate study in Japan, we were able to determine or identify the genetic determinants and mechanisms of a particular trait, which is the L-type lateral root trait. That is a very important trait in terms of the growth, adaptability, stability, and productivity of rice under abiotic stress conditions. So during the time, we were able to identify 3 mutation genes, and when I returned in 2020, I started to do the application of these L-type lateral root trait in Philippine agriculture, particularly on improving our Philippine rice varieties. These genes were, this trait was actually reported to have a very important contribution in allowing rice to survive or to be productive under abiotic stress condition, but we never had the chance to apply it for breeding or biotech applications because these mutation genes or these genes are not yet available. So these are the first genes that have been reported, and in 2021 we were able to have run from Picard to start the breeding application of these mutation genes, and we are happy that we are progressing to incorporate those mutation genes in our Philippine rice varieties, especially those which are popular and high yielding. So if you are familiar with NSIC RC 160, 402, such as those varieties, we are trying to improve those rice varieties in order for them to be productive under abiotic stress conditions such as drought or nutrient poor soils. So that is, I think, one of the things that might be considered contributory in improving our Philippine rice varieties. And we are happy that we are progressing and we are being supported to do those research. So for now, we have 3 projects in order for us to utilize those mutation genes, and not only on the breeding aspect, but we are now also doing biotech applications. So we are trying to do CRISPR-Cas with some of my colleagues participating in that research.
Thank you very much. How about Dr.
Hello again, Albert. I guess I'll switch gears siguro dun sa kalamihan ng nasa-share dito. So in terms of, I guess, policy, scientists, kailangan pondohan kasi limited. Limited yung pondo natin dito sa Pilipinas. Even yung allocation ng budget sa science and technology is not even 1%. 1% po kasi yung suggested allocation from the gross domestic product sa isang developing country by the United Nations. Tinitingnan din po natin yung multi, inter, and transdisciplinary approaches. Let's say, for example, when we look at human security, it's not only the traditional way by which we view it, but also, and it's quite, I guess, prominent in this pandemic, that health, kung namatay ka na, everything else is no longer valid. So, when we look at our own security, personal security, food security, environmental security, all of these are intersecting with each other. And it's not only doing the hard science, but we also need to think about the backbone, not only for us doing the science, but for what we can share and, I guess, contribute to the community. Thank you.
Dr. Selina,
can I add? So I'm not a balik scientist, but based on experience, I think I am. I studied in Japan. I was funded by Matsushita International Foundation. So it's not a government funding, so I'm not required to go back. So after I finished my master's in Japan, and we have a placement, so I was put in a private firm. So I became a salaryman in Tokyo, suit and tie, in the train. Then I realized, like, this is not what I studied. So the pay is good in Japan, and then you get the experience, develop country, set up. But that was, I studied development economics, but I cannot connect what I've learned in our classroom to what I'm actually doing. So I think after 3 months of working as a salaryman in Japan, so I decided to go back to Leyte and work at Visayas State University. And that's where I can apply the things that I've learned to the setting. And back to the question as to how we can contribute in terms of food security. A lot of the projects that we are doing are focusing on improving productivity on the supply side. At kapag ganyan, marami kang supply, you have another hurdle, the market. So kapag supply and demand, marami kang supply, you go into the market, then the prices go down. So input of farmers, prices of pesticides and fertilizers, ang hirap na ma-recover. So I think there's a whole value chain that we have to look at once we want to look at how do we put food to the table. One is focusing on the supply side, on the production, productivity, but there's the value chain that we have to look at. And there's a discussion among us that perhaps the best way to help the farmers is not really to directly work with farmers, but to work with market, that there's market that our farmers can access, that they can bring their products from their farm directly to the market. So if you go in the countryside, so marami tayong challenges, farm to market roads, ang hirap, ang ganda ng produce, pero ang layo-layo sa farm. So once you travel, you have a lot of losses. So there's a lot of post-harvest. And I think that goes in terms of funding, that if we can increase our funding to science, so from 1%, and I hope that that's the target, but if you can reach it like the developed countries at 5%. So a lot of funding is coming in, and I think that's where we can diversify further our focus from the production side along the line of value chain and how we can be more inclusive once we speak of value chain. And I think that would be a good approach in increasing production, in bringing food to the table, in ensuring that our scientists would also go back and help doing things in the countryside. I think that's my thought.
Alright, thank you very much, Dr. Sina.
Yeah, actually, yung sinabi ni Sir Billy, yung sa supply side. So, I have a collaboration right now with UP Cebu. Cebu has been known as parang mango province. Kasi di ba, yung mga dried mangoes actually are coming from Cebu 70 and all these things. Pero yung productivity nila are actually dwindling. Something to do with, of course, there are a lot of mangoes coming from elsewhere, like Thailand, and even from Mindanao. And then, ang problem kasi ng mga farmers really is yung, sa mango in particular, yung how they grade the mango fruit efficiently so that they can actually classify, okay, ito for exports sa Japan, exports sa Hong Kong, or for local market. So yun, we are looking into ways into using robotics or artificial intelligence to enhance their efficiency. So, I would like to address that question kanina ni Sir Lyndon about robotics taking over. Doon sa project na yun in particular, I believe hindi. Kasi it's actually meant to supplement what they are already capable of. Maybe enhance their accuracy in terms of grading the fruit so that mas malaki din yung productivity nila and makakapag-generate sila ng more revenues, no? Doon sa produce nila. Kasi ang nangyayari is nare-reject lang is because they're not able to grade it properly. So hindi sila nakaka-maximize ng profit. So I think in terms of food production, AI and robotics, in my opinion, kasi mahirap magsalita ng tapos na, I think it's meant to enhance human capability rather than substitute human capability. And I think, because nga meron na tayong mga technologies right now, like I believe you all have heard of ChatGPT. So mapapalitan ba yung mga writers kasi kaya din ChatGPT magsulat? I don't think so. But it's more of actually enhancing content creation kasi mas marami ka nang magagawa with the efficiency that is supplemented by robotics or AI. So yun lang, my opinion.
Thank you very much. Our next media partner is Mr. Jason Rodrigo from SMRI. Sorry, sige po.
Yeah, I would like to share something about the food system. Aside from using the more conventional plastics for hydroponics or aquaponics system, yeah, we could use some biomaterials to replace it so that would lessen the possible emission regarding the fabrication of those supplies for your farm. We also introduced or embedded an artificial intelligence model in our system that would somehow lessen. Actually, that's the result. It lessened the chemical residue in the water going back to the aquaculture plant because it's a recirculating system. Yeah, I think that the society could easily adapt on it because it's easy to assemble. Yeah, we can do some modular techniques or modular outputs. Like it's a puzzle-like system where actually ang futuristic ng plan namin is like pwede mo siya mabili sa, like for example, Ace Hardware. Bibili ka ng isang system ng soilless farming setup, and then nandun na lahat, may embedded system, may microcontroller, and the like. So, ang injection ng chemicals ng, for example, synthetic fertilizer would be minimal depending doon sa growth. And what we did is that we introduced doon yung computer vision na nakatapat lang siya sa lettuce, and then the cool thing doon kasi non-invasive test, non-invasive phenotyping yung dating niya. Makikita na ng camera mo, mapapredict niya ano na yung level ng chlorophyll, what's the level of vitamin C, and then based on those features ng plant, mag-inject siya ng certain nutrients at ng fresh water at aquaculture water para ma-sustain yung growth ng crops. At hindi siya mahuli, for example, lettuce, intended siya for 4 weeks. Now you could have it within 3 weeks, maka-harvest ka na. So it's a one way of increasing the productivity then ng farmers. And likewise, I have I'm involved right now in one of the projects ng DOST. It's place ng project is sa Baguio, sa province. And then it's a hinterland improvement of the hinterland agricultural supply chain. And it's where both the environmental conditions and the outputs or the supply from the farmers are considered. Where we integrate yung model ng transportation system, smart routing system, likewise the digital phenotyping of crops, and then connected to farm-to-table technology and farm-to-fork technology.
Thank you very much, Dr. Concepcion. So,
kasi although scientific yung topic, yung pagkasulat niya, simple, bago makita mo gaano ka-exciting actually kung paano na-discover yung structure ng DNA. Na kung may, halimbawa, may kinabukasan sa science, katulad ko, pwede yung actually, pag pumasok ka sa business, yung mga tinuro mo being scientist, actually kakailanganin po. Kasi kailangan mo ulang, dapat critical ka lang mag-isip. Dapat marunong kang magtanong. Actually, unang kailangan, alam mo kung anong itatanong. Kasi pag alam mo kung anong itatanong, yun ang mga importanteng sagot na kailangan masagot mo. Dahil pag nasagot mo yun, yun ang magiging, kailangan mo sa iyo succeed. So, halimbawa, kung may isang problema, yung tinatawag natin scientific method ang ginagamit. So, problema, define mo kung ano yung problema, magagawa ka hypothesis, o kailangan mo yung test. So, yun yung, pag natutunan mo yun, pagiging scientist, importante yan. So, kailangan para maging successful ka sa iyong career, kung ano ba lang iyong. Lalo na pag yung may artificial intelligence, mapapalitan yung mga routine. Pero pag scientist, hindi mapapalitan ng scientist.
Sa ating mga OYS awardee, meron po bang gustong sumagot?